The world watched in stunned disbelief. It was the summer of 2014, a season of heat and upheaval across the ancient landscapes of Iraq and Syria. Convoys of black pickup trucks, bristling with heavily armed men, tore across the desert sands. Their black flags, emblazoned with a stark white seal, became a horrifying symbol. Broadcast on screens from Tokyo to Toronto, this was not just another insurgency. This was something different, something more ambitious and terrifyingly effective. They called themselves the Islamic State, or ISIS, and they moved with a speed and brutality that seemed to defy all modern conventions of warfare. Cities that had stood for millennia, cradles of civilization, fell in a matter of days. The images were as calculated as they were gruesome. A global campaign of terror waged through social media. At the heart of this storm was a mysterious, shadowy figure, a man known mostly by his nom de guerre, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Long before he became the world's most wanted man, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi was Ibrahim Awad Ibrahim al-Badri. He was born in 1971 in Samarra, Iraq. He came from a religious family, a conservative Sunni family. They claimed descent from the Prophet Muhammad's tribe. He was a quiet, bookish boy, known more for his piety and for his passion for Quranic recitation than for any outward signs of militancy. Neighbors remembered him as introverted, a mediocre student who struggled, but he excelled in religious texts. He was not a natural leader, nor a charismatic firebrand. Instead, he was meticulous, deeply immersed in the minutiae of Islamic law and theology. He earned a doctorate in Quranic studies from a university in Baghdad. The turning point came in 2003. The American-led invasion shattered Iraq's social and political order, toppled Saddam Hussein's Sunni-dominated regime, and empowered the long-oppressed Shiite majority. The ensuing chaos and the decision to disband the Iraqi army left hundreds of thousands of trained military men unemployed and resentful. This power vacuum became a magnet for extremists. In this turbulent environment, the quiet scholar found a new violent purpose. He became involved in local insurgent groups. His theological knowledge provided a veneer of legitimacy for brutal acts and for attacks on their fellow Iraqis. His early role was not as a frontline commander, but as an ideologue, providing religious justification for the insurgency. The role let him build a network of contacts within the nascent jihadist movement while remaining largely in the background. A scholar of death who could twist sacred texts to sanction unspeakable violence, his deep understanding of Islamic jurisprudence became a powerful tool. It allowed him to craft the legal and administrative framework for the Islamic State's brutal governance. Shaped by religious conservatism, by the academic world, and most decisively the utter collapse of his country, the quiet scholar was transformed by the fires of war and occupation. In February 2004, the American military net finally closed around Ibrahim al-Badri and sent him to Camp Bucca. What was intended as a holding pen became something else entirely, a university for jihad. Inside, low-level fighters and high-ranking Ba'athist officers were thrown together. For al-Badri, this was an unprecedented opportunity. He led prayers, gave religious lectures, mediated disputes, earning respect and trust. Overwhelmed guards saw him as a stabilizing influence, the marathon man. But beneath the calm exterior, a master strategist was at work. Al-Badri was networking, identifying talent, and forging alliances that would become the foundation of his future state. He befriended former military officers, memorized names and contacts, often writing them on the elastic of his underwear. Released in December 2004 as a low-level threat, he walked out a changed man, connected to future commanders, recruiters, and administrators. He reconnected with the insurgency, joining al-Qaeda in Iraq under Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. While Zarqawi was the public face, al-Badri rose by managing religious and legal affairs. After Zarqawi's death and successive leaders hunted down, by 2010 the group was on the ropes. In this collapse, al-Baghdadi was elevated, thought a placeholder. They could not have been more wrong. By 2011, the Middle East was in flames. The Arab Spring reached Syria, protests escalated into brutal civil war. For al-Baghdadi, chaos next door was a golden opportunity. He dispatched Abu Muhammad al-Jalani with fighters and funds to establish the Nusra Front. Nusra became effective, but al-Jalani aligned with the Syrian rebellion, clashing with al-Baghdadi's uncompromising vision. In April 2013, without consulting al-Qaeda's leadership, he announced a merger, the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, ISIS. Al-Jalani rejected the takeover and appealed to Ayman al-Zawahiri, who ordered al-Baghdadi to dissolve ISIS and stay in Iraq. Al-Baghdadi publicly rejected his authority. The Islamic State of Iraq and Syria remains. The schism was permanent. ISIS became independent, positioning itself as the true heir to the jihadist cause. More dynamic, more ruthless, more successful. The break was complete. The year 2014, the world truly learned the name ISIS. After consolidating power in eastern Syria, seizing oil fields, imposing brutal rule in Raqqa, al-Baghdadi turned home to Mosul. A few hundred ISIS fighters launched a surprise assault. Tens of thousands of Iraqi soldiers and police, demoralized by corruption and sectarian leadership, abandoned their posts, stripped off their uniforms, fled. They left behind American-supplied weapons, vehicles, equipment. The capture of Mosul was monumental, strategically and symbolically, broadcast worldwide via ISIS's propaganda machine. Momentum surged. ISIS seemed invincible, the Iraqi state a hollow shell. On June 29, 2014, the first day of Ramadan, ISIS announced the restoration of the Caliphate, dropping Iraq and Syria to become simply the Islamic State. Al-Baghdadi was declared Caliph Ibrahim, commander of the faithful, demanding obedience, legitimized by a Friday sermon at Mosul's great mosque of al-Nuri. Choreographed political theater. His speech electrified sympathizers, offering an intoxicating vision, a pure Islamic state, a utopia for the faithful, and doom for its enemies. For a brief, terrifying moment, the dream seemed real, built on the ruins of two nations. Once the caliphate was declared, ISIS set about state building, a proto-state with a barbaric administration over land the size of Great Britain. Courts dispensed swift, merciless justice. Punishments were medieval and public, filmed and disseminated to terrorize and project authority. Its economy, oil smuggling, taxation on daily life, kidnapping for ransom, looted antiquities, seized assets, made it the wealthiest terrorist organization in history. Propaganda was lifeblood. Al-Hayat Media pushed high-quality content in multiple languages, Dabiq, Rumia, slick videos of battlefield prowess and idyllic state life, a dual-use weapon, demoralizing foes while recruiting tens of thousands of foreign fighters. Life under the caliphate was a grim dystopia, especially for women and religious minorities. The Yazidi community faced genocide, men executed, women and girls enslaved, all codified by twisted theology. The declaration fundamentally altered global jihad, directly challenging al-Qaeda. ISIS boasted territory, a functioning state, and a caliph. Factions pledged bay'ah, forming global provinces. Rivalry became competition for prestige and recruits, ISIS outdoing al-Qaeda in brutality and ambition. Its propaganda urged lone wolves in the West, if you cannot travel, bring the battle to the Crusaders. A wave of attacks followed. Paris, Orlando, Nice, inspiring mass casualty violence globally. These attacks sowed fear and division, and kept ISIS in the headlines. Even under pressure, the message was clear: destroy our state, but our idea remains, and our fighters are among you. The Islamic State's shocking rise and extreme brutality guaranteed a massive international response. By late 2014, a US-led coalition launched a relentless air campaign. On the ground, rebuilt Iraqi army alongside Shiite militias and Peshmerga in Iraq, and the SDF dominated by Kurdish YPG in Syria. The Caliphate now fought on multiple fronts against a constellation of enemies. In 2015, key losses, Tikrit and Kobani, began to turn the tide. Air power dismantled ISIS's economy, refineries, cash stores, convoys, eroding its ability to govern and wage war. Foreign fighter flows slowed to a trickle, utopia gave way to bombardment, and grinding house-to-house fighting. In 2017, after 9 months of brutal combat, Mosul fell, al-Nuri destroyed in a tacit admission of defeat. Months later, Raqqa fell. Remnants were squeezed into the Euphrates River Valley. Triumphant propaganda turned to last stands, martyrdom, and future resurgence. ISIS reverted to insurgency, and al-Baghdadi went into deep hiding, a lingering ghost. For years, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi was the most hunted man on the planet, relying on couriers terrified of electronic surveillance. In October 2019, a captured insider's tip pinpointed him, not in ISIS heartland, but near Barisha Idlib. On the night of October 26, elite U.S. Special Operations Forces launched a daring helicopter raid. The ghost was cornered. He fled into a dead-end tunnel, taking 2 young children, and detonated a suicide vest, killing himself and the children. His death was announced in a dramatic press conference. The Caliph was dead, his body disposed of at sea, mirroring bin Laden. ISIS scrambled to project continuity, naming Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurashi, yet its conventional force was shattered, fighters scattered to deserts and mountains. The story of ISIS and al-Baghdadi offers stark lessons. Power vacuums and civil war become breeding grounds for extreme ideologies. Good governance matters, sectarianism breeds grievances ISIS exploited. Above all, defeating an army is easier than destroying an idea. The ideology persists online and in global provinces, and in the minds of sympathizers. The fight has changed, not ended. Remnants regroup, adapt and wait for the next moment of chaos. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's rise was meteoric, powered by chaos, sectarianism and violence. But his fall was inevitable, eroded by an international coalition, loss of territory, betrayal, internal decay. ISIS left a scar on the Middle East and the world, a wound partly healed but not forgotten. As we look ahead, the fight isn't over, it has merely changed shape. If you found this video insightful, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more history and politics content. Comment below, what do you think is the most important lesson from the rise and fall of ISIS?